Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with DX Engineering. Today we have on Rod, K3LR. Rod, what is the best tip that we can give to somebody who's just starting out in the hobby and wants to get a setup on HF? Let's talk about some tips today.
Wow. Okay. That's probably the $64,000 question. Whenever somebody upgrades from tech to general and they want to get going on HF, uh, one of the things that some inexperienced hams might not be familiar with is the idea that you're going to need if you're going to have a home station, you're going to need an outdoor HF antenna. And you have to plan for where is that antenna going to go, uh, whether or not you can get it away from the house and other houses so that it doesn't pick up noise. Is it going to be a wire or a vertical? And where is it going to mount? And how are you going to run the cable out of your home to the antenna that's outside? That's pretty much a absolute requirement for HF operations in amateur radio.
A lot of times we get asked the question, what about a vertical? What about an end fed half wave? What are the pluses and minuses, Rod?
Yeah, that's a great question because a lot of the least expensive and simple, seemingly easy solutions are not necessarily the best. There is a lot of uh, chatter on the various blogs and reflectors and things about what works and what doesn't work and that kind of thing. One thing to keep in mind is that if it's a an elevated vertical that claims to work on all bands, or if it's an end-fed antenna that works on lots and lots of bands, that does come with compromises. It's not necessarily the best antenna, but it can be a really good way to get started. If you have no other alternatives, such as putting up a full-size dipole or a full multi-band inverted V hanging in tall trees. If you can't put up a tower and a beam like a lot of hams eventually gravitate towards if they're able to in their particular neighborhood situation, then those quick and easy or quick and dirty antennas can actually get you going and get you on the air. Any antenna, even if it's a compromise, is better than no antenna at all.
Right, right. And Rod, what about the internal antenna tuners that are inside the radios that come with the radios? Let's take an Exhibit A, the IC 7300. How well is that going to be able to take care of a VSWR problem?
Which is one of the things that you have to learn about when you get into HF and outdoor antennas. You're going to need to concentrate on looking at the SWR curves and how an antenna plays across a band or across multiple bands. And the internal tuner on most radios is capable of touching up a slightly elevated SWR that might be somewhere around 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, but not much more than that. And there are plenty of multi-band antennas that are sold that actually have SWRs that are 4 or 5 to 1 that can work quite well if you have a better tuner, an external tuner that's used outside of the radio, but between the radio and the antenna. Or if you're going to use an amplifier, you would have the radio and then the amplifier and then the tuner that can handle all of the power of the amplifier at a high SWR. And ultimately, the best scenario is if you're going to be using an amplifier, you should use quality antennas that are resonant, low SWR, so that you don't have to use a tuner. But yeah, there's a lot of information to learn about when you're getting uh, down the road on HF antennas. And the the old adage of the higher the better, that worked for VHF isn't necessarily a deal breaker for HF. There's a lot of cases where you could use a dipole or an inverted V that's only 15, 20, 25 feet in the air that can really get you a whole bunch of contacts across the continents and even a little bit of DX, because the conditions are great now during the sunspot cycle, especially. You don't have to have a tower and a beam. You can have a dipole or an inverted V or even a vertical ground mounted that does a great job if it's installed correctly.
Well, I look a lot at the photos that guys are taking of their parks on the air activations, and when they're out doing POTA parks, and some of the end-fed wires, some of the just simple verticals, like from Res Antenna,
Yep.
that those simple verticals that are just on a tripod with decent coax, and the coax isn't that long. You can take one of the Yaesu radios, the new Yaesu radios, the ICOM radios, out into the field really quick with a 12-volt battery. A lot of times it's just battery power, Rod. And what kind of considerations should guys give to batteries, when they're trying to size batteries?
Well, if you're going to concentrate, because for a lot of guys, they live in apartments or they live in homes in HOAs where you can't possibly put an antenna outside, and for a lot of those folks, the solution is to go portable and do parks on the air activations, or just do portable operations. You can do it out of your car. You could do it backpacking. There's a lot of ways to get it done. The battery amperage basically has got to handle running the radio at a 50% duty cycle, because you're going to be talking and listening. You're going to be making contacts, unless you just want to go out and listen. That's not most of what we try to do with ham radio, but yeah, you want to account for some of that. And a Biono battery has a really good chart on their web, and we have that linked on our website, that tells you how much current you need from a battery for a 50% duty cycle at, say, 25 watts or 50 watts or 100 watts. And I like to oversize that myself. I'm on the verge of buying a battery. I think I would probably get a 30 amp, just so that I could have 6, 7, 8 hours of uninterrupted operations at 100 watts PEP sideband, or 50 watt CW, something along those lines.
So the Biono batteries that we have are really, really good in this application, and there are others as well. But like you say, Rod, you want to take a look at that chart and then size accordingly, because some of the radios, that are capable of 100 watts, it might be better to turn it down to about 10 watts so that you get more battery life.
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah, and in that case, you could run a 9 amp or a 12 amp or a 20 amp battery and do just fine. But if you get into the smaller amperage batteries that are cheaper, obviously for financial reasons, then you could expect to get an hour, a couple hours worth of operation. And some guys, that's good enough, where you just throw it on the charger in the car and drive to the next hilltop or whatever, and by the time you get there, then you're up and ready to go. But yeah, 17-foot vertical whip and a Biono battery. There's people that are doing that, like Brady, who just messaged us a little bit ago. And there's just no one perfect way of doing things. That's the beauty of amateur radio, is that you get to experiment and try different things. And I've found over the years that I could do a lot with not a very great antenna, but I could do a little bit more with a really good antenna. And I could do amazing things with amazing antennas. It's just the nature of HF operations.
Right. And the great thing is that putting your money and time into antennas is the biggest payback. And I know you and I have talked about that on this show. I do want to call out on the chat room. We've got Jason on, Kilo Queen 4 Uniform Echo India. And from Mexico, it's X-Ray Echo 2 Zulu Zulu is on with us today. And he just got a window feeder from DX Engineering, and Jason's recommendation is the end-fed antenna would be the easiest antenna to get going. And I think Jason is using the Fox Tango 710 from Yaesu, and also recommends the LDG tuner. And Alpha India 5 X-ray radio is on with us, and always good to hear from him. And from Southern Ohio, it's Bob, November 8, Mike Whiskey Bravo. And as Rod talked about, Brady is on. He says, I love doing POTA with my IC 7300 and 17-foot vertical whip and a Bional battery. And Brady is down in the Pittsburgh area. And then AJ is on, November Kilo 4 Oscar. Most of my POTA activations are at 5 watts, and they still find us. So, you can save a lot of battery power by running 5 or 10 watts and let the heavy lifting go on the chasers. Let them, worry about that. Alpha India 5 X-ray radio also says I run 2 30-amp hour batteries for POTA just in case one dies. I can always hook up to the other one and keep operating.
Great.
And
yeah.
One of the other things here in the chat is end-fed spool antenna or the 17-foot vertical. So, in a lot of cases, it's also the amount of time that it takes to set up. Rod, when it comes to the interface to the computer, what about that USB connection? What are some things that guys should really be careful about?
That's a good point, because a lot of the hams, they want to be able to do logging on the laptop. It's very important to load onto the laptop or whatever computer that you're using the USB drivers that are from the manufacturer for that radio interface that's built in. The nice thing about the modern radios, your 7300, your FTDX10, the FT710, many of the modern radios, and even some that came out as long ago as 10 years, have a USB port on the radio that is dual port. In other words, it'll do both rig control and audio interfacing. And you could find that in your device manager on your PC when you plug it in. But first, put the device drivers in from the manufacturer, especially for the ICOM and the Yaesu. Kenwood is a little bit less severe about that, but it's a good idea to just go ahead and update those drivers and then plug in the USB cable after those drivers are installed. Then everything will work the way you want it to, or the way it's intended.
Yeah, and what the great thing is with Facebook and YouTube and some of the Facebook groups that are dedicated to specific models of radios, there's a lot of good tips there. And also, if you go to our blog, onallbands.com, and Rod, you've contributed to that as well, we have some tremendous blog writers that are taking on a lot of these topics. And there's great information there on how to interface your radio, how to do POTA. Some of Michael's KI8R, his videos are really descriptive in how to do satellite work, POTA work. And so you can learn a lot on the DX Engineering YouTube channel, as well as the DX Engineering blog on all bands. I do want to call out Dave is on with us, Kate Delta Victor, part of the DX Engineering team. If you call in or you email us, you might get an email from Rod or from Dave. And also Donnie is on with us, Kilo 4 Echo Kilo from Tennessee. Well, Rod, thanks so much for being here and talking about your experience and how to help customers have more fun with the best hobby in the world. Rod, we'll catch you next time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tim. It's been a great 20 years for me at DX Engineering this week.
All right. Well, congratulations on your DX Engineering anniversary. And thanks to all of you for watching. We hope you learned something here today on Tuesdays with DX Engineering. Until next time, 73.